We all love thrillers. I know I certainly do. And I'll tell you what, at the opposite end of the entertainment spectrum from thrillers is dry as dust legal stuff. It is the exact opposite of a thriller. Well, it is, unless you're reading a book by Scott Thoreau or now Thomas Perry's new one, Pro Bono. Now, this book by Thomas Perry is another very intelligent, very well-paced, very well-written book that explores themes like honor, integrity, honesty, versus out-and-out greed. Now, the plot of the book has got really three storylines in it. In the first one, a widow marries a con man, and the con man, during the time of their marriage, manages to drain all of her assets away from her. And at the end of their marriage, he burns down her house. The second one also involves a widow, but in this case, what happens is that there were two financial advisors that her dead husband had hired. And what happens is they manage to steal from her, drain her accounts while she's a widow, and she's completely unaware of it. And in the third one, you have people who have lost money because at their death, their heirs weren't found, and the money went up to the state, and the state is holding it for somebody to claim it. And you've got some fraudsters who are trying to cheat somebody out of money that's held by the state. Now, the person who ties all three of these storylines together is this lawyer, Charlie Warren. And Thomas Perry paints a great picture of this guy. You know his childhood, his background. You even get a sense of what his future is probably going to be like at the end of the book. He's a super competent lawyer in the financial area. He's also a CPA, and he is really, really resourceful. He's competent. He does all kinds of really good stuff. And Thomas Perry, as I say, paints a very detailed picture of this guy. Now, Thomas Perry does something similar with all the other characters in the book, both the victims and the bad guys. He gives you enough to know, without loading you down with too much stuff. He gives you enough so that you understand what their motivations are, what their fears are. In other words, what's driving these people. In terms of Thomas Perry's writing style, the one word that comes up to my mind is it's smooth, absolutely smooth. It moves along. You read it, it's effortless to read it, and everything just flows together perfectly. Now, also perfect is the pacing of the book. You never get bogged down with any one thing. The plot just keeps moving along, and it keeps being entertaining. Now, as I said, Scott Thoreau also combines legal stuff with the elements of a thriller, but there's a big difference here, and the difference is this. Scott Thoreau writes about stuff that we all find entertaining. Murder, sex, all that kind of stuff. Politics. Where what Thomas Perry is doing is taking an area that, quite frankly, I think would otherwise be dry as dust, financial stuff, financial fraud, and makes a highly entertaining thriller out of it. So anyway, I enjoyed all of Thomas Perry's books. Maybe you did too. I liked the Butcher's Boy books, the Old Man books, the Jane Whitfield series. And I think if you're like me and you enjoyed them, I think you'll enjoy this one as well. So I thoroughly recommend it. Suggest you give it a try. And in the meantime, I'll see you next week.